Arjun Malhotra and Maya Rao arrived in Santorini for the honeymoon of their dreams. But 3 days later, Maya vanished without a trace, leaving Arjun to unravel a mystery that would take him halfway across the world. Arjun Malhotra and Maya Rao met through a mutual family connection, and their relationship moved quickly. Both were well-educated, well-spoken, and appeared perfectly matched. To friends and relatives, Maya seemed quiet but thoughtful, someone who observed more than she spoke. Arjun, on the other hand, was confident and ambitious, proud to have found a partner who fit smoothly into his life. Their wedding in Mumbai was elegant and carefully planned, filled with smiling faces and public celebrations. Few noticed that Maya kept her circle small and avoided long conversations about her past. In the weeks before the wedding, she sold her apartment, resigned from her job, and quietly closed several bank accounts. When asked, she explained it as a desire for a fresh start. For their honeymoon, the couple chose Santorini, a place known for romance, privacy, and breathtaking views. White buildings clung to cliffs above the deep blue sea, creating an atmosphere that felt unreal. Maya seemed calmer there, often staring at the horizon for long periods. Arjun believed the stress of wedding preparations was finally fading. They explored narrow streets, shared quiet meals, and watched sunsets that felt timeless. Photos shared online showed happiness frozen in perfect frames, convincing everyone that the marriage was built on love and trust. Yet small details hinted at something else. Maya often checked her surroundings before entering public places. She avoided crowded areas and insisted on returning to the hotel early at night. Arjun noticed, but dismissed it as travel anxiety. He had no reason to suspect that this journey was more than a honeymoon. What he did not know was that Santorini was not just a destination for Maya. It was the final stage of a plan that had been forming long before the wedding, a plan that would soon turn a dream vacation into an international mystery. The morning everything changed began quietly. Arjun woke to the sound of distant waves and assumed Maya had stepped out to enjoy the early light. The room was unusually still. Her side of the bed was cold, and her suitcase was gone. At first, he felt mild confusion rather than fear. He checked the balcony, the bathroom, and the hallway, expecting to find her nearby. Minutes passed, then an hour. A growing unease settled in his chest. Maya's phone was switched off, and repeated calls went unanswered. Arjun contacted the hotel staff, who said they had seen Maya leave just after sunrise. She appeared calm and carried a small bag. Security cameras later showed her walking alone through the hotel lobby, moving with purpose rather than hesitation. She did not look distressed. From the last camera angle, she headed toward a narrow road leading to a small harbor used by private boats. Beyond that point, there was no footage. Local police were notified by late morning. Officers searched nearby paths, shops, and cafes. The sea below the cliffs was scanned by rescue teams, but strong currents made recovery difficult. By evening, speculation began. Some suggested she may have slipped and fallen. Others quietly raised the possibility that she had chosen to disappear. Arjun rejected both ideas. He insisted Maya was excited about their future and would never leave without warning. As night fell, Santorini's beauty felt cruel. Tourists continued their vacations while Arjun waited in the hotel lobby, watching strangers pass by. With no evidence of violence and no personal belongings left behind, investigators struggled to classify the case. By the end of the day, Maya Rao was officially listed as missing, and what began as a honeymoon had turned into a mystery that would follow Arjun for years. News of Maya's disappearance spread quickly once Arjun returned to India. What began as sympathy slowly shifted into doubt. Television panels dissected his behavior, replaying footage of him speaking to reporters at the airport. Some viewers felt his emotions seemed controlled, almost distant. Online commentators questioned why he had waited hours before contacting authorities. Rumors filled the gaps where facts were missing, and Arjun's name became permanently linked to suspicion. Indian police reopened the case after Maya's parents filed a formal complaint. Investigators reviewed the couple's short marriage and uncovered financial details that raised concern. Arjun carried significant debt, hidden behind the image of a successful professional. Credit cards were maxed out, and loans had been taken shortly before the wedding. Even more troubling were the life insurance policies purchased weeks before the honeymoon, naming Arjun as the sole beneficiary. To detectives, the timing looked deliberate. Arjun cooperated fully, providing bank statements, travel records, and access to his devices. He denied any involvement in Maya's disappearance and maintained that she had been under no emotional distress. Friends were interviewed, and some admitted they barely knew Maya. She had kept her past carefully guarded, leaving few personal traces behind. That secrecy only deepened suspicion around the marriage itself. Without a body, charges could not be filed, but investigators treated Arjun as a person of interest. His movements were monitored, and his passport was temporarily confiscated. Public opinion hardened against him. Employers distanced themselves, and friends stopped calling. The investigation stalled between two possibilities: a husband hiding a crime or a man trapped in a disappearance he could not explain. In the absence of answers, doubt became the loudest voice of all. Time moved forward, but the case remained frozen. Months passed with no new leads, and Maya was officially classified as missing rather than deceased. Greek authorities quietly archived the file, noting the lack of physical evidence and the absence of any confirmed sightings. In India, the investigation slowed as well. Resources were redirected to more active cases, and Maya's name faded from daily news cycles. For her parents, time did not heal anything. They refused to accept the idea that she was gone forever and avoided performing any traditional rituals, holding on to the belief that she was still alive somewhere. Arjun's life unraveled steadily. Legal costs drained what little savings he had left, and the stigma surrounding the case made steady employment impossible. He moved apartments several times, trying to escape the whispers that followed him. Each relocation brought the same result. Neighbors eventually recognized him, and the silent judgment returned. Friends who once stood by him slowly disappeared, uncomfortable with the uncertainty that surrounded his name. Investigators noticed one detail that did not fit neatly into any theory. Maya's Indian bank accounts showed no activity after the day she vanished. No withdrawals, no transfers, no attempts to access funds. At the same time, her passport was never used anywhere in the world. Immigration records showed no exits or entries under her name. It was as if she had stepped out of the system entirely. This contradicted theories of impulsive escape or suicide. Despite these inconsistencies, nothing concrete emerged. Each lead dissolved into coincidence or speculation. Arjun marked the first anniversary of Maya's disappearance alone, replaying memories of their brief marriage in his mind. The silence surrounding the case grew heavier than the accusations. With no body, no confession, and no proof of life, the mystery settled into a quiet limbo, leaving behind a question that refused to disappear. How coup? Nearly 2 years after Maya vanished, the case was little more than a forgotten file. Then, unexpectedly, her name surfaced in an entirely different investigation. A cybersecurity analyst in India was tracing the digital footprint of an online scam when a familiar face appeared. One profile image matched an old photograph of Maya, taken years before her marriage. The account used a false name, had no visible activity, and was designed to attract no attention. Yet it logged in repeatedly, often at odd hours, suggesting careful and deliberate use. The analyst dug deeper and traced the login locations. Each access point originated from Southeast Asia, with the strongest signals coming from southern Thailand. The pattern showed long gaps between logins, as if the user was checking something rather than communicating. There were no messages, comments, or connections, only silent presence. This behavior stood out because it suggested someone trying to stay informed without being seen. The information was passed quietly to Indian authorities to avoid media leaks. Investigators compared the image with known photographs of Maya and confirmed a strong match. The account had been created just months after her disappearance in Santorini. Until then, there had been no digital trace of her existence. For the first time in 22 months, the idea that Maya might be alive moved from hope to possibility. Arjun was contacted and informed of the development. The news left him conflicted, torn between relief and fear. If Maya was alive, it meant the disappearance was not an accident. It also meant that the past 2 years of suspicion and isolation had been built on a false foundation. Investigators prepared to follow the digital trail, aware that one mistake could cause whoever was behind the account to vanish once again. A small team traveled to Thailand under strict confidentiality, avoiding any public record that could alert the person they were searching for. The digital trail led them to a quiet coastal region known for long-term foreign residents who preferred to stay unnoticed. The area was filled with modest guest houses, yoga retreats, and beachside bungalows, places where outsiders blended in easily. Local authorities assisted discreetly, checking rental records and informal registries rather than official immigration databases. One name appeared repeatedly in handwritten logs kept by a property owner. The woman paid rent in cash, renewed her stay monthly, and avoided providing identification. Neighbors described her as reserved and cautious. She rarely spoke, never hosted visitors, and was often seen walking alone near the shore during early mornings. Her appearance closely matched Maya's, though her hair was darker and shorter. She dressed simply and avoided crowded areas, mirroring habits noted during her honeymoon. Surveillance confirmed the suspicion. The woman used public Wi-Fi sparingly and followed routines that suggested she was avoiding detection. When authorities approached the bungalow, they found her inside, calm and prepared. There was no resistance, no confusion, and no denial of identity. Maya Rao was alive. Physically, she looked different, but unmistakably the same person. Emotionally, she appeared detached, as if she had trained herself to feel nothing. She carried documents under a different name and possessed items from several countries, indicating years of careful movement. Her survival was not luck. It was the result of planning, patience, and discipline. The discovery ended one mystery, but created another. If Maya had chosen to disappear, the question was no longer how she vanished, but why she believed vanishing was the only way to stay alive. As investigators examined Maya's past, a hidden story slowly came into focus. Years before her marriage, she had worked for a financial consulting firm that handled offshore investments. During that time, she unknowingly became connected to a network involved in illegal money transfers across multiple countries. When authorities in another jurisdiction began closing in on the operation, several people linked to the network disappeared under suspicious circumstances. Maya believed her name had surfaced during internal investigations, placing her at serious risk. Instead of approaching law enforcement, she chose secrecy. She erased parts of her life step by step, distancing herself from friends, changing phone numbers, and quietly preparing for an exit. Marriage, she believed, would provide the perfect cover. A honeymoon disappearance would attract attention, but it would also push investigators toward emotional explanations rather than organized crime. Santorini was selected carefully for its international traffic and access to undocumented travel routes. Arjun had never been part of the plan. Evidence showed he had no knowledge of her past or her intentions. His financial problems, once seen as motive, were unrelated to her disappearance. Maya had timed everything precisely, leaving Europe within hours of vanishing and moving through a chain of intermediaries who specialized in identity erasure. By the time suspicion settled on Arjun, she was already far beyond reach. Authorities confirmed parts of Maya's account through sealed intelligence reports shared between countries. The threats she feared were real, though never publicly acknowledged. Her disappearance was no longer treated as a crime, but as a survival strategy shaped by fear and limited choices. The truth reframed the entire case. What once looked like betrayal now appeared as desperation. Maya had not vanished to escape a marriage, but to outrun a danger she believed would eventually find her. In doing, with the truth emerging, the focus shifted back to Arjun. Investigators formally cleared him of any involvement in Maya's disappearance. Official statements confirmed he had been unaware of her past and had played no role in her escape. The accusations that once defined his life were quietly withdrawn, but the damage had already been done. 2 years of suspicion had cost him his career, his reputation, and his sense of trust. Maya, however, refused to return to India. She maintained that exposing herself publicly would place her in immediate danger. Intelligence agencies supported this assessment, noting unresolved links between the financial network and violent enforcement groups. As a result, her location and new identity were classified. Even her family was denied direct contact, receiving only limited confirmation that she was alive and under protection. The emotional impact on both families was severe. Maya's parents struggled with the knowledge that their daughter was alive yet unreachable. For them, hope became a form of punishment rather than comfort. Arjun faced a different reality. Knowing Maya had chosen disappearance forced him to confront the fact that their marriage had been built on a lie. The woman he loved had never truly existed in the way he believed. Public opinion shifted once again. Sympathy replaced suspicion, and Arjun was portrayed as a victim of extraordinary circumstances. Still, no apology could restore the years he lost. Maya's survival came at the cost of every relationship she left behind. Her freedom was real, but it was purchased with permanent isolation. The case challenged simple ideas of guilt and innocence. There was no villain in the traditional sense, only people making choices under fear. What remained was a silence shaped by protection laws, classified files, and a truth that could never be fully shared. Legally, the case reached a quiet conclusion. Because Maya had disappeared by choice and had not been harmed, no criminal charges could be pursued. Her actions, while deeply personal and ethically troubling, did not violate international law. Authorities closed the case with a classification that offered no real sense of justice, only finality. The disappearance that once dominated headlines was reduced to sealed documents and restricted files. Maya's legal identity was officially dissolved. Under international protection arrangements, her new name replaced the old one in every system that mattered. Records of her former life were locked away, accessible only to a small circle of officials. To the outside world, Maya Rao effectively ceased to exist. Her family was advised to grieve privately and move forward without public acknowledgement. The suggestion felt impossible, yet unavoidable. Arjun attempted to rebuild his life within the boundaries of this legal silence. He received formal letters clearing his name, but no compensation for the harm he endured. Employers remained cautious, wary of association with a story that still carried emotional weight. Friends returned slowly, unsure how to speak about the past without reopening wounds. For investigators, the case remained unsettling. Finding a missing person usually brings relief, but this discovery delivered discomfort instead. The absence of accountability left a hollow ending. There were no arrests, no courtroom resolutions, and no public explanations. The truth existed, but it was buried under confidentiality agreements and national security concerns. In the end, the law had done what it could, yet justice felt incomplete. The case stood as a reminder that legality and fairness do not always align, and that some mysteries, once solved, still leave everyone unsatisfied. Arjun returned to India a free man, but forever changed. The official clearing of his name offered little comfort. The years of public suspicion, isolation, and emotional torment had left deep scars. He avoided large gatherings and media attention, choosing instead a quiet life, one measured by routine and solitude. Friends who had once vanished slowly returned, but the conversations were cautious, as if fear still lingered in the air. He never remarried, unable to trust that the love he once believed in could exist again. Maya, meanwhile, continued her life far from India. In Thailand, she moved quietly, adopting a new identity and following routines designed to avoid detection. She lived in anonymity, aware that each step was measured against unseen threats. Though she was safe, her freedom came at the cost of complete isolation. The family she once loved remained out of reach, and any chance of reconciliation with Arjun was impossible. Her survival was real, yet it carried an unspoken price. Love and connection sacrificed for security. Their story lingered in the minds of those who followed it. It became a chilling example of how appearances can deceive, how a disappearance can hide not just crime but careful planning, and how love can sometimes become a tool for survival rather than partnership. For Arjun, it was a cautionary tale of hope, loss, and endurance. For Maya, it was the cost of escape, a life rebuilt on careful secrecy and constant vigilance. In the end, the Santorini honeymoon became a symbol of vanished dreams, the Thailand bungalow a monument to survival, and the human heart a place where longing and fear coexist. Their paths diverged, leaving behind a story that would haunt those who heard it, reminding the world that sometimes the most mysterious disappearances have nothing to do with violence, and everything to do with choices made in the shadows.